Hello, Gamecock fans. JC Shurburtt here with you inside the Gamecocks, the show, thebigspur.com. Told everyone on the show yesterday when we ended that just because the show's on hiatus every day, Monday through Friday, 11 to 2, check it out if you can until January 6th while we all go spend Christmas, spend time with our families, get some production done for the new year, that type of thing, that we'd still be with you putting content here on Chief Sports South Carolina YouTube page, also all over the bigspur.com. If you'd like to join the bigspur.com and get a VIP membership so you can interact with me and all my rowdy friends on the message board, get a little scoop, use code BIGSPUR50 to get 50% off an annual membership to the bigspur.com. If you want to pay full price, you get Paramount Plus for free. Been watching a lot of good shows on Paramount Plus lately. Landman is one we've talked about quite a bit. So with that out of the way, wanted to pop in here, give a quick portal update. Some not so welcome news with Andrew Jones flipping to Ole Miss. I'll tell everybody this. I think whenever the portal comes up, money always comes up. And I think it's pretty well known. Ole Miss is portal heavy. Think it's pretty well known. Their collective has been rocking and rolling for a couple of years, and they pay guys, what it takes to get them there. They're almost entirely dependent on the portal. I remind everybody that they recruit okay at the high school level, but it's mostly bringing in portal guys just about every year. So that topic comes up, and I'll say this about Andrew Jones. New Orleans is about 5 hours closer to Oxford than it is to Columbia. And they have a big history of recruiting that area. It's almost like an Atlanta kid or Charlotte kid to some point. So I was told that was kind of part of it. I think the money situation, Jones probably wants to get NIL just like everybody else. I was told it was not nothing to write home about the difference in it. Now, there's talk he may visit Oregon. If he visits Oregon, then I think you're in a mercenary situation and you may be better off without him if he ends up there. Taking a visit's taking a visit. So we'll see sort of what happens with that. It was unfortunate. The Gamecocks do have to find more linebackers, and I'll have more on that as the weeks go on. I'll remind everybody before we get to the topic of this video that last year, Bengali Kamara, who was really good in 4 games. I mean, it wasn't like he wouldn't have contributed. He just, I don't know, decided to leave after 4 and take the red shirt and go to Kansas. And Demetrius Knight Jr. signed on January 4th and January 6th of last year after Pup Howard and Stone Blanton got into the portal. That was kind of a blessing in disguise because I think South Carolina upgraded their speed at linebacker with those two. And Demetrius Knight in particular was critical this season. I mean, totally critical. Obviously, look at how he played against Oklahoma, the interception against Clemson. He's a fast guy, a leader on the team. Sometimes it works out that way. So sometimes there's darkness before the dawn, especially in the transfer portal. If I had a concern right now, it's that you're not seeing some of the, a lot of these guys they've been going in on, Jones being one of the exceptions, unfortunately, are kind of known entities. And, I do think they need to take more than one linebacker if they can and more than one D tackle. And they seem to be looking out for D tackles, but the linebacker thing, we'll see sort of what happens with that. But quarterback, obviously, is the most important position on the field. Of course, South Carolina returns LaNorris Sellers next year. He's popping up on some Heisman lists, was one of the most impressive players in college football down the stretch and will continue to be. I think, that's not surprising to me. Maybe it is a little surprising about how rapidly he advanced game 1 to game 12. But man, oh man, what a special player. So the Gamecocks aren't necessarily looking for a starter, but you have to kind of prepare for contingencies and build that room over time. And the Gamecocks are, with Robbie Ashford moving on into the portal, he's going to play in the Citrus Bowl. Shane Beamer made an exception there. He wants to go someplace he can start. Visited UNLV. Dan Mullen's the head coach out there now. I mean, I think he should go there. I mean, Dan Mullen could use a Robbie Ashford big time at UNLV in the Mountain West. That guy, heck, he may run for 1,000 yards out there with that offense. But anyway, that's my opinion. Where he goes is where he goes. But he's going to stick with the bowl, and he's pretty valuable this year in getting the Gamecocks out of games. Started the Akron game, piled up a bunch of yards, showed leadership. Davis Bevel as well was a senior out of the portal they got. Shane Beamer likes to have a lot of quarterbacks, even if they're walk on, so you can rep and all that good stuff, and they need more. So you have Cutter Woods coming in from the high school level. I think he's got a lot of potential. I think Dante Reno is a young quarterback that will continue to develop. That's got a very good arm talent, also one of those leadership guys. But sort of exciting, I think, is the visit of Air Noland from Ohio State, transfer portal quarterback, one of the very best quarterbacks in the entire country in the class of 2024. So he spent 1 year up there. Was a top, I think 24/7 Sports Composite had him as the number 4 quarterback in America for that class. Ohio State, as we know, they sort of their philosophy is to stockpile quarterbacks, which is kind of funny because I don't think their situation was all that great this year. And then they'll inevitably have some transfer. Quinn Ewers transferred, Kyle McCord transferred out, and is doing pretty well at Syracuse. They just seem to do that. They'll just get a bunch of guys, let them battle it out, and then rock and roll moving forward. I guess that's one way to do it. It's probably got to be a little difficult sometimes if you're Ohio State and you watch Joe Burrow, an Ohio kid, go to LSU and do what he did a few years back. I think the fact that he led the Cincinnati Bengals to a Super Bowl is probably, kind of a nice consolation prize for Buckeye fans, especially in Southern Ohio that pull for the Bengals. But McCord doing what he did at Syracuse this year, and then you look at some of the struggles they've had, even with a talented team, and maybe that was a mistake. But it's never a bad thing, I don't think, at least as far as history is concerned, to take one of the guys from Ohio State. They do a good job of coaching them too. But Noland was only there for 1 year. He's a lefty. Passed for 10,600 yards at Langston Hughes High School in Fairburn, Georgia. It's in the Atlanta area. Redshirted this year, obviously. Quote I read from On3 was that he likes Mike Shula quite a bit. So there's something, if you're concerned about Mike Shula getting after it in recruiting, here comes a guy that had a lot of interest from a lot of places out of high school and even now. And he's coming to visit and is highly interested. And it's a good time to get a guy like this because he's young. LaNorris Sellers will be going into his 3rd year. We all know he's draft eligible after next season. And frankly, if he ends up going to the draft, that's probably a good thing because it probably means he's a first rounder. And the Gamecocks won a lot of games in 2025. So you do have to prepare for that if you're confident in your team. And this is nothing against Dante Reno or Cutter Woods. Those two could win the job. I mean, Air Noland is a talented guy, but it's not like you just hand him the job, as a starter moving forward. I don't even think it's necessarily, they're going to compete for the backup. But he's got a lot of arm talent, very quick release. I like him, style of play wise. He's kind of a gunslinger, fast athlete, ran track in high school, has enough speed, not the runner necessarily Sellers is at 4.4, but can get yards with his feet, can move around the pocket, very instinctual, instinctive. I don't know what that word is. But a lot to like. A lefty, that's a little different, a left-handed quarterback. So that's something that's a little bit different around here. But certainly if you can get him in and let him develop for a year and compete with Cutter Woods, Dante Reno, and whoever else you bring in the 2026 class, you like your room moving forward post Sellers. I think sometimes under Shane Beamer, if you've noticed what's happened, you'll go through a situation during a year where the room is not good or the room has very few players, and it's almost like never again. Quarterback the first year, had to activate Zeb Nolan as a graduate assistant. He goes out there and plays with eligibility. Ended up playing Dick Harrion Joyner mostly in the bowl game, rotating with Nolan. Luke Doty got hurt. Jason Brown was in there and won some games. And then Spencer Rattler comes in the next year, and the position solidified. And then LaNorris Sellers, obviously, this year. It's Christmas time, so I was thinking the other day how blessed South Carolina is. You always talk about your blessings and stuff at Christmas. To have Spencer Rattler and LaNorris Sellers back to back, that's almost as good as having, or it's probably as good as having Stephen Garcia and Connor Shaw back to back. Back in the day, and then the Gamecocks had Garcia, Shaw, and Dylan Thompson back to back to back. So you hope to keep the train rolling. Is Air Noland going to sign with South Carolina? Again, I don't ever say yes, no crystal balls, nothing like that. With these portal guys, it's a business decision. Everybody's going to make it as they see fit, but the interest, the situation there. Maybe if there's a place he can go and get on the field and be the starter, obviously that's what every quarterback wants to do. But there is probably a quicker path at South Carolina to getting on the field if it's okay that next year, he kind of is a backup and learns than in a lot of other places that have kind of stockpiled quarterbacks through the years. I know Georgia's looking for a quarterback from the transfer portal, but they've got Gunnar Stockton. I think they got the Rashada guy that came in, the $13 million kid that went to Arizona State. And gosh, Arizona State got better when he left. What does that say? I don't know. Mike Bobo and those guys will get the most out of him. But it's, Georgia's looking for one. But there's not the clear path when you sit down and lay it out like there is at South Carolina. It sounds crazy to say because we're about to head into an off season of LaNorris Sellers mania, so to speak. But and Sellers is worth it. He's worth every accolade he gets. Still has some work to do, obviously, like Mike Shula said the other day. But if you could squeeze this guy in, I think that sets your room up a little better, and you keep recruiting 2026, whatever. And Air Noland, when you watch him, he is a gunslinger, and I like that in a quarterback. But there is risk, and when you go to the college level and you're like that, and you're used to taking some risk and trusting your arm, and maybe too much, like a Brett Favre type of guy. You got to kind of hone those skills if you're a quarterback's coach. Mike Shula can do it as good as anybody. I mean, in the NFL, the guy turned David Gerard into an all-pro, Pro Bowl player for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And look at what he did with Cam Newton and all that. And I've said it before about offensive schemes. I don't think they translate with how they're coached and taught in the NFL to college just because of the time constraints, the complexities, what that league likes to do, and the defense, all that. It's just a different, same sport, different game. But quarterback coaching is quarterback coaching. That's the bottom line. I mean, that you can develop quarterbacks at every level and really be the same. I mean, teaching that position is the same. And Mike Shula's got a great track record with it. So that'll probably be appealing to him. So he's coming in today. Some of the other visits are up in the air. Kendrick Law from Alabama was supposed to visit. He up and signs with Kentucky. Best of luck to him. TJ Searcy, there's been all kinds of, he's a DN from Florida. Kind of left the Gamecocks at the altar to a certain extent out of high school. I don't know if the Gamecocks will end up getting him or not. Supposed to visit, then it was A&M, then he's supposed to visit. So I'll have an update on that for the video, folks, if he signs or whatever. You want a Justice Haynes update real quick before I go. I told the members of the BigSpur.com, and I'm telling you now, the visit went as well as it possibly could. You hear that visits go well all the time in this business, but it is a little rare when you hear as well as it possibly could, outstanding, amazing, super, any kind of ultra positive adjectives you could use. The Gamecocks rolled out the red carpet for him. Of course, he's the Alabama running back, 5-star prospect out of high school. The Gamecocks want and need to solidify that room. Looks like the Michigan visit's going to happen. The Ohio State talk, they're talking about, somebody had said he's visiting Ohio State today. I was on a live stream with Inside Texas Football, which is on YouTube, as well yesterday with my friends Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. And they mentioned that there's not portal visitors for these playoff games. So Ohio State's got a playoff game. So I'm going to stick to my guns here, even with the Buckeye talk. and say that I believe that Michigan poses the biggest threat for Justice Haynes to South Carolina. And we'll see. I think Michigan's had some running backs named Justice, so like in my mind, maybe I'm thinking that. But and they run the football. I mean, with the running back at Michigan, I mean that's what they do, and they're going to continue to do that. So anyway, that's the other part of it. So we'll see sort of what happens. I know it's going to be 4 degrees in Michigan this weekend if that's when that visit takes place. But the Gamecocks have done all they can do. NIL wise, the deal's more than fair, better than some other schools have come in on him. I can tell you that. Not going to get into numbers because I don't get into numbers, but I can report that conversation was good. Based on what I know, it happened before he left campus yesterday or left the Columbia yesterday. So everything went as well as it could with Haynes. But we all know that at the end of the day, these guys, like I said, are making decisions. And it's not unlike high school recruiting where you get a lot of crap in there. And I'm not saying that schools don't sling poop these days in the portal because they most assuredly do. But that stuff doesn't work as much anymore when you get older. And so it's not like, oh, he really wanted to come here, but that brand was a bigger pull. Maybe that factors in, but it's much more transactional these days. Although you do, if the transactional nature of it's all the same, your relationships, your vibe, all that does still matter. But the other thing about it is when you're recruiting out of high school, you got a talented player right down the road in your state. It kind of hurts when he goes out of state, because you want to keep all your guys in state, local kids at home, that kind of thing. That's it still matters. College football, that's still your primary talent pool, no matter how you structure it or spin it. So that kid, you miss on a portal kid, it's not really as personal, I guess. And then there's 5 more out there that you can go evaluate and get. And again, back to the linebacker discussion, this is another good example. South Carolina did not get Kamara and Knight last year till January 4th and 6th. So there's another period coming up after the bowl game. And during that time, too, a lot of other players from bowl teams and portal teams will be getting in the portal. The portal is going to have another wave of players coming in. Carolina had about 8 signed and ready to go from the portal at this time last year. This number's 4 right now, but South Carolina took 20. They actually ended up with 22 with Buddy Mack and Davis Bevel coming in as kind of walk-on portal guys. So they got 22. I don't think they're going to hit that number this year. Remember, there's a roster limit. So I'm thinking that number maybe 10 to 12, 10, 12, 14 max. Something like that. The big concern's linebacker right now. Obviously, they got to get some more guys on the board and get some more guys in and ready to go. All right, I'm going to go watch the playoff games. I'll have another video with my thoughts on this after watching an Indiana team that, quite frankly, looked like a group of 5 team talent-wise last night. Everybody wants to blame coaching. They're idiots. What was Kurt Signetti supposed to do? You had one team with a lot of players. You had another team that was a function of schedule. I mean, look at Indiana's offensive line. Those guys wouldn't last 10 minutes against South Carolina's D line, Ole Miss's D line, Alabama's D line. I mean, go on down. Texas A&M, LSU. That was atrocious. And I know this final score, 27-17. If you didn't see the game, you may be looking at it going, well, it's a close game, JC. What are you talking about? It wasn't. It was domination. Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman emptied their bench, and they got an onside kick and scored. I mean, garbage scores at the end. Could have gotten dicey had they made the 2-pointer. And I was like, well, a lot of nervous times at my house. My wife's a Notre Dame fan, so that's it. Anyway, hope you guys are enjoying this last Saturday before Christmas. It's almost here. Stay tuned to this YouTube channel, Chief Sports South Carolina. Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Inside the Gamecocks, the brand, thebigspur.com. We are rocking and rolling right now in the holiday season. Hope you are well. Check out our Merry Christmas from the Show video as well if you like music. It's on the house band playlist right here. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We're trying to get to 10,000 before the bowl. Don't know that we'll get there, but we've actually gotten a lot. Doesn't cost you a thing. Just hit the subscribe button and we're ready to roll. All right, I'm out. Have a happy Saturday, everyone. We'll be back along soon.